Xin chào mừng quý vị và các bạn đến với chương trình Tôi về Việt Nam trên kênh truyền hình FBNC. Và khách mời của tôi ngày hôm nay là giáo sư Soren Kirchner, hiện là giảng viên MBA của Đại học Greenwich và Trung tâm Đào tạo Quốc tế thuộc Đại học Quốc gia Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, đồng thời là nghiên cứu sinh của Trung tâm Nghiên cứu Kinh tế và Chính sách, Đại học Kinh tế, Đại học Quốc gia Hà Nội. Hi, Mr. Kirchner. Thank you so much for coming to our program.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. So what brought you to Vietnam?
Well, Asia's where the action is, and Vietnam is small enough to make a bigger impact as compared to a place like China, some other place like that.
What have you done before that?
Before that, I was almost 20 years in the software marketing business,
Software marketing.
and direct marketing for software, so the direct marketing space. I started out teaching when I was 27 years old, back when I had a lot of hair, and I was very young,
happened, man?
just out of grad school. I was very young, and I was teaching a course called Consumer Behavior at a place called Memphis State University.
Okay.
It's in Tennessee. Now it's called University of Memphis. It's a state-owned school, accredited school. And I realized that I had no business teaching people marketing, having never done it. So I decided to go into the job world, and I learned it for some years. And I didn't start teaching again until I was 44, having had over 15 years experience doing sales management, marketing management.
Okay.
But I felt more comfortable doing it at that point rather than when I was a kid, which is what I was. And I was honest enough with myself to know that I had no business teaching people something that I'd never really done, except read in a book. And so I think that if you're teaching something, it should be something you've done successfully.
Sure.
The best teacher is one who has done it or can do it and can correct you. If they've never done it, how can you teach it? If I want to teach you how to drive a car, and I can't drive a car, that's kind of silly.
Sure.
And the way to teach you to drive a car is get you in a car.
Yeah.
Not in a classroom to talk, okay, theory of steering wheels.
All right. So your upcoming book, The 1, 2, 3 Strategy for Prosperity for Vietnam. Tell me about it.
Well, been here for almost 7 years, and many students, of course, will come to you and say, you know, what should we do? What should we do? What should Vietnam do? And I had a lot of time to read and a lot of time to think about it, and I finally put it together in a 1, 2, 3 strategy that is not easy, but it's simple. And to my knowledge, no one has put it together before. So I decided to write this as a book. And the first strategy, it's 1, 2, 3. Number 1 is higher quality goods, which will raise the export value.
Oh, so 1, 2, 3 is like 3 strategies for Vietnam.
It's a 1, 2, 3 strategy built in one and done at the same time. Will bring Vietnam into prosperity quickest.
And the first one is
higher quality. So they make higher quality products and sell them at a higher price, and that will raise the export value.
So what is the problem right now regarding the Vietnamese products and services? They're not really high quality?
Let's look at the solution. The solution would be to learn from what the Japanese and the Koreans have done in terms of quality and process. And they studied a guy named Deming, which is a lot more practical way to adopt quality. And so by producing higher quality, higher value, there's people, for example, in China, over 200 million Chinese that have money to burn, to spend on high quality. And they are, but not from Vietnam. So China is the capital of cheap. They don't want any more cheap products. They want quality products, and the market is right over there. Similarly, the United States imports something like $9 billion worth of high-quality Italian shoes, for example. And later on, you'll be able to show some examples of some of my students' work on developing brands for high-quality Italian-style shoes made in Vietnam to be sold in the U.S. So there's a great market for higher market, bigger market for quality goods than cheap goods. At the same time, it's very difficult to compete against China on the area of cheapness because all the infrastructure they have and just the size they have.
So make a lot of cheap products.
Well, the reason they're cheap is because they have the infrastructure to move them. They have their inputs from within the nation state of China, so that brings down the price, and then they have scale, a tremendous ability to scale. So the way to win is not to compete against China, but to compete against the G7, which is branding your products, high quality, branding your products, controlling your sales channels, and selling to the Chinese and the G7.
But what do you think are some reasons that Vietnamese companies haven't paid too much attention to increasing the quality of their products and services?
Well, you just said it. They haven't paid attention to it. So if they pay attention to it, then they'll get the result.
What are really the problem then? What is the barriers that, hold them back from, investing more into the quality of the product?
Well, let's look at the enablers. The enablers, or the solution to that, is the opposite of the problem, which is to look at the opportunity. If you want to increase the money that you make, you simply make a better product. And it squares well with Vietnamese culture, because Vietnamese have a way of producing artistic products like shoes, handmade, anything, with great love and attention, more so than the Chinese. So you can actually win the game of quality and beat the Italians on shoes, for example, instead of trying to beat the Chinese on shoes, because they're always going to be cheaper.
But then high qualities always come with high costs, correct?
Actually, the opposite is true. The higher quality brings down the total cost long-term lower.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, simply if you buy, let's say you buy a machine, and the machine's made in China, and it's cheap, and it breaks down, and you have to replace it. The replacement cost, and then if you're servicing your customers and the machine breaks and you can't service your customers, you lose business. It can go on and on. The effects can be compounding. So quality is really the most inexpensive solution in a longer term period.
All right. So the quality is necessary topics that we Vietnamese companies have to focus on now, right?
Well, it's a way to make more money for your exports. So if you increase the value of your exports, say 20 to 30% by making quality, then you don't have a trade imbalance, and the